first guest today is just an awesome guy that we're thrilled to have on the show. Tom Chiz is a retired homicide detective and SWAT operator who's also the CEO and co-founder of Armored One, an amazing company focused on school safety, training, equipment, and everything we need to address the issue of active shooters and other threats that plague our school system. He joins us now. Tom, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, Drew. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thanks for your service first and foremost. You've done some amazing stuff for communities here in the country, and we're grateful. And it continues on now with this. So
I appreciate that, and same to you for your service, what you've done for our country.
Absolutely. Well, so I want to give the audience some insight into what you guys are doing at Armored One, because it literally is just awesome. Not blowing smoke here. We've talked before about it. Love it. But let's start here. So we all talk about active shooters now. I mean, it's sadly far too prevalent. But when would you say, just to give kind of to peg historically where this started, where did this whole thing start? Is it Columbine? Is there less, popular is not the term, but less, talked about events that happened before then, or where did this whole thing start?
So being a police officer, we were training for active shooter, and Columbine was a game changer for us as police on how we responded. We used to wait for SWAT then, and then we changed to a more dramatic, quick insert of anyone who shows up. They have the discernment, they can make their own decisions to go in. So that had caught my eye, and as a SWAT team trainer too, I was teaching that, but it was actually the Sandy Hook attack in 2012 on December 14th, so we're coming up to the 6-year anniversary here soon, and that was really the eye catcher for me, and that's what made me start the company. My wife was a high school teacher, and I have 6 kids between our 2 marriages here. We have 6 children. And I was more nervous about them going to school than I was about myself going to do a SWAT raid or going to work as a police officer.
Yeah, well, and I totally get it. I mean, we've talked about this off camera. That is like one of the most terrifying things as a father. Look, even if you're not a father, you're an uncle, you're a brother, whatever. It's terrifying to think. You see buses going by, you drop your kids off at school, and you're like, man, I hope that everything and everyone comes home tonight and this goes well. Because you just never know, too. I think that one of the things that always strikes me, and I think people so quickly get into this mindset that it can't happen here. It's not going to happen in this town. It's going to happen here. But you see, look at the data. I mean, like it just happens in the most random places: big towns, small towns, larger schools, small schools, churches. You name it. I'm glad that you started this, because I know that there's other folks out there doing some kind of stuff, but the comprehensive training, equipment, everything that you guys do, I'm just thoroughly impressed with, and I'm grateful that there's people like yourself going out there to do it. So you see it all, I'm sure. You get to these schools, you do surveys, you're asked to help a myriad of whether it's, again, schools, government institutions, whatever it might be. But let's stick with schools. Where do you think as a country we're going wrong with protecting our schools?
We don't put enough of a focus nationally on security. So we go into school after school. We've worked with thousands of schools across the nation. When we go in, security is way down the line. So safety is one of the tops, but safety and security, as you know, being a former operator, it's totally different. If our kids are not alive, what does it matter what college they go to? If we're not protecting them just like our own households as mothers and fathers, what good are we to our children? And that's what we push with our schools. We find out over and over again that their true concern is not security, or they just check a box and say, I've talked to my local police department, I've talked to the sheriff, and they told us to watch a video and we're all set. When the truth is, every time you get on a plane in the United States, they go over what will happen in case we crash. Even though it's nearly impossible for a commercial airline in the U.S. to crash, they still prepare us, and they've done the right things to prepare us for these crashes. And we as a company find it the same way, that we need to prepare just in case. It's not a scare tactic. Like you said, it is happening weekly, that we see at churches, malls, businesses, schools. It's happening over and over. And our goal is to educate people, teach them, no matter where they are, they will know what to do, and they will have different responses for what's going on, and be able to make a decision that will help keep them alive or keep their family alive or their students alive.
Yeah. Well, to me, that's so key. Training is what is most key with all this. Awareness, of course, yes, because you got to have the awareness to realize you have the need for training. But you've got to build that muscle memory. And I think that, we always talk about with folks as well, like, look, you're not going to get the training that you had on SWAT or that I went through with the agency or some of the other jobs I had prior to that you're not going to, but you can still at least develop some small sense of muscle memory and just awareness of, okay, something goes bang, or something goes boom, whatever. I know that I've trained to do, here's my list of actions. Here's what I'm going to do, as opposed to, just assuming and hoping that nothing's going to happen. And then when it does, you've literally got nothing to lean on. So I think it's so important. I think it's
Absolutely
critical for schools to just recognize that. And you see, look, we've talked to sheriffs in different, counties and states throughout the country about this. Some places have school resource officers everywhere. Some people only have it, hey, we rotate it, and sometimes there's one here, sometimes there's not. Do you think that's enough? I mean, obviously, I don't think, I think the answer is no, but, like, do you think that people think it's enough to just have a school resource officer there?
They absolutely do, and we absolutely push for a school resource officer. We want a good trained guy or girl in the school with a gun that's able to respond appropriately. Because we get posed the question all the time, should we have teachers armed? An armed school resource officer is totally different than an armed civilian. Just like the training that you have, even from base military, my oldest son's in the Army, and right now he's training to try to get into the Green Berets. The training that he's had in infantry compared to what he's going to get in the Green Berets is two totally different things. So a police officer compared to a civilian is polar opposites of what is allowed by the law, what people perceive, what the shooter's psyche of seeing that police officer inside the school. It's actually about 40% chance, less of a chance if you have an SRO in the school. So just by putting someone in there, you're cutting the chances nearly in half that it's going to happen statistically. And we're a statistically based company with what we do, retired FBI, Secret Service, Homeland Security, all of those men and women working for us that keep stats and study these. And we go out to all the scenes of the school shootings and do our own investigations to make sure that when we're training people, we're creating products or we're doing assessments, it's based on the true, accurate history of active shooter and how people survived. We're trying to give them the best options to survive.
Well, and thank God that you are. How has the reception been so far from schools, communities around the country to what you guys are doing?
I would say we're at about a 30% perceived very well when we come out. And that sounds bad to people, but when at least 80% of American schools are doing it wrong, and we come in with experts, and I would even say I'm not the absolute expert in this field. I have Homeland Security experts working for me, FBI experts, and active shooter. All of these men and women that have come to us because they also are putting their kids or grandkids on a bus and feeling like they might not come home, so they're here to help. These schools are not doing it right. Showing a quick video or telling staff to lock your door, wait in the room. We've had school after school tell us, if you lock yourself in a classroom, it's a 100% chance you're going to live. There were classrooms down in Parkland where the doors were locked and kids were killed inside the classroom.
Yeah.
He shot out the glass, reached into the room with a gun, and was killing kids and shooting kids in the classroom. So they're telling people what to do, but it's not truly going to help them survive. So when schools, all the time, you see them on interviews saying that we're doing what's right by our students, but you're doing what's perceived right in your mind, but truly tactically, are you doing what's right and what's going to save lives? Most of the time, almost all the time, it's no. So when we go out there and they believe they're doing right, they tell us no. And then about 30% of the schools that we approach, we actually work with, and their response at that point is at 95 to 97% of excellent of how they're perceiving our training. Because we do baby steps. We've integrated teachers into our program to help us teach properly, because law enforcement and military, elite military, can be scary coming into a school, but we've created a program with teachers that is perceived really well.
That's awesome. Well, and I'm getting out of my own order that I had planned for this, but I'm curious too. Like, okay, so we've addressed, like, awareness is an issue. You've got to have people who recognize the threat and want to fix the threat, or at least try to be more prepared for the threat. But how much does budget play into this? Obviously, to do things right, it takes some money, it takes some effort, and redoing your plan, and perhaps some construction, installing equipment, etc. How many places do you think, and obviously we don't need a finite, perfect number here, but how many give up on this and abandon it and say, well, yeah, that'd be nice, but we just aren't going to be able to pull it off, so they move on from it?
I would say it's only probably 25% that abandon it. The thing is almost all the states that we're in offer state aid to help with security. The problem is the decision makers that are buying the security items or putting in place the training don't know what they're shopping for. So they're uneducated on what really needs to be done. And a quick and easy example that everyone can understand is tons of people, tons of schools are buying cameras and thinking that if I put up $1 million in cameras, this is going to stop an active shooter. When the true psyche of the shooter is they want to go down in infamy. They want it recorded. They want YouTube to put it out, just like they have the Columbine attacks and all the others. And they want to be remembered, just like the Virginia Tech shooter. They want to be remembered. So by putting up $1 million in cameras, are you truly protecting your kids from an active shooter? No. Are you helping for lawsuits against the school? Yes. Yeah. And does it help us as detectives afterwards to see what happened? Yes. But truly proactively trying to slow down that attacker and create barriers of protection to slow him down and to stop him, that way police can get there, they're really not doing it.
Yeah. Well, and that helps kind of segue into this next question where I think that we're going to be on the same page with it, but maybe not. You know, there is that time, right? There's that time that something happens, shooter enters the building and starts, you know, firing rounds down the hall, into classrooms, what have you, and you've got to wait. You know, law enforcement, yes, maybe you have an SRO there who may not even be in that exact vicinity of the building, but then, you know, for your first responders who are coming, SWAT who's coming, it's going to take minutes and time, as you know, of course, you know, living that life. But so the actions that have to be taken by the school are critical in those first moments. Do you, with that, you see so many people out there saying we need to arm our teachers and this, that, and the other. How do you feel about teachers being armed?
It's a very difficult question, because even when President Trump was saying we should arm our teachers and give them bonuses for being armed, it is a hard process, as you know, to learn how to shoot a gun, learn how to shoot a handgun well, and then under stress of being shot at and having to shoot back are totally different than standing on a range. So arming teachers, I'm actually for arming teachers, but it would be a very limited amount. Less than 1% of our teachers should be armed, but they need to go through an actual police course to be certified as police officers to do this. And that's one of the solutions I feel as a national level. After 9/11 happened, we created the air marshals. So why do we not have school marshals? Why are we not taking somebody out of a police academy or someone that's retiring, putting them in the school, people don't know who they are, and they only respond to an active shooter, somebody with a weapon, with a gun, that is actively trying to kill someone. And the people you work with don't know what you do. You're there teaching. The school would pay the salary for teaching. The police departments or the federal agencies would keep them certified. But just arming a teacher and giving them a gun, our biggest concern on law enforcement, we don't know who the shooter is. We have information that there's a man with a gun, 98% of the time male, a male with a gun shooting people. We show up and there's someone with a gun, we are going to shoot them. They don't understand how we respond. They don't know what we're going to do. The heightened stress on the officers showing up. We've almost shot other police officers. I was just with a college yesterday that they had a threat, and there were so many police officers not in uniform there with just dangling ID badges that they were almost shot. After we were talking to them on the debrief, they were almost shooting each other, yet a teacher's going to have a gun and pointing it and screaming. And my example, too, is right after the shooting in California, the bar shooting last month. A couple days after, there was another bar shooting, and the security guard, who was not in a police uniform, shot the shooter that was shooting them, and when police showed up, they sadly shot the guy who stopped the active shooter and killed him. But again, the police officers don't know who the bad guy is. They know people are shot. They see a guy with a gun standing over somebody that has been shot. Their assumption is that he's the bad guy.
Right.
And God forbid police officers start killing teachers. I know that would not pan out well across the United States.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, that's always been my big concern, too, is that you don't have a blue and blue, green on blue type event where, hey, look, if I'm a first responder coming there, I'm going to do exactly what you said. I see someone with a gun and I don't know who you are, you're going down because you want to stop the threat and end it. And I think the training part is key, too. Look, if there was I think it was Southeastern University in Florida, if my memory serves me right, which it usually doesn't. But I think it was there, and they wanted to arm their teachers, and the school president was all for it. They were working with the local sheriff, and it was like, okay, well, look, if the community, the county, whatever, is going to fund it, and you're gonna go through training with the sheriff that's going to have, you know, mock scenarios and not just firing on the range, as you said, because it is so different when you're under pressure and the adrenaline is going. If you're going to do it right, then that's a different story. Then that's interesting and intriguing to me. The issue then just still comes down to comms. You know, you're that marshal, the teacher marshal, who's in the building. how do you as a SWAT member know that John over here is doing it right, has been through the training? So that's what I guess has to get sorted. But I think it could be interesting, and obviously anything that can stop the threat in an efficient manner sooner is good.
Absolutely.
So tell me this: I've got a couple things left for you. What are some schools or communities that are doing it right? Are there some examples that are just crushing this?
There are some tremendous school districts across the U.S. that are really putting a true effort forward to secure their schools, and they're not the ones you see on TV. Good Morning America saying we're the safest school in America, because that's a crock of crap. They are truly doing what it takes to make it happen. They're budgeting for it. They're spending money in the right places. They're consulting with experts, not only us, but experts in the field, to say, is this what we need to do? And what they do, I've been told by some great superintendents, they take it like being parents. They're a mother or father. Their first concern is the safety and security of their family. That's how they look at their teachers, their staff. That's how they look at their students. These are my kids. These are my teachers. These are my staff members. If I can't keep them safe, I'm not doing my job. Everything else will fall into place after that. Same with, securing down our country, building up our military, all that stuff. If we truly protect ourselves as a nation, we can be successful. But that goes with our schools, too. If we're not protecting our schools, we're vulnerable. And what does it matter if our kid can make it to West Point or to Yale or to Harvard or Syracuse University, where we are, if they're shot, if they're going through PTSD from shootings at their schools, or they're dead? They can't. Yeah. So they have really stepped it up. They've been buying the right products. The goal of what you should be doing, if you're a superintendent of school, decision maker, you should be looking into products that slow down the attacker and also speed up police response. So electronic access control for police, that they can quickly get into the areas where the shooter is. Putting an SRO there. The average active shooter is 8 minutes long, because police response, like you said, it's a delayed response. And what we teach people is, you are the first responder being there. We're no longer, law enforcement is not the first responder. We're the rescuers. We need to stop the shooter. We need to help people survive, just like EMS and fire. You are the first responder. If we can slow down that attacker and speed up police response, we're going to save lives. So creating barriers of protection throughout your school to protect those people, especially large amounts of people, cafeterias, libraries, hallways, things like that, you're truly saving lives.
Yeah. Well, and you guys don't just go around and provide training and assessments. You also have equipment and products that you sell too. Tell the audience a little bit about. I know the glass you offer is amazing. It's super cool. But there's a lot of stuff. Give a little just sense of what you guys offer and sell.
So we created a glass product. Our bulletproof glass has been around forever. Bullet resistant glass and attack resistant glass have been around, but nobody's ever combined them together. That if the glass is shot and attacked, that it would actually keep someone at bay and slow them down. So what we did is we utilized different scientists. We came up with products to put film on glass that if it gets shot, it holds together, and then it can also be attacked, to create a barrier of protection. And we also are now manufacturing glass, fire-rated glass, all sorts of glass that is affordable to schools. This was the biggest thing is, as a company, we wanted to make sure people could afford what was done, but this glass can be shot, it can be attacked. And we took Sandy Hook as some examples, Columbine, Parkland, Florida, New Mexico, where the shooter actually shot out glass, opened doors, and came in, was able to kill people. Our goal that is, even if the bullets go through, that we can keep the shooter at bay to slow him down, to get police there to stop him, or discourage him from further attacks in that area and try to move on from that location.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, just awesome stuff. Keep up the great work, Tom. Thanks for all that you do. Thanks again for your service to the community, and thanks for coming on the show today.
Thank you.
Folks,
I appreciate everything.
Hey, well, we will most certainly have you back. Folks, be sure to check everything that Tom and the crew are doing at Armored One at armored1.com. You can check that out and see just, again, all the great work they're doing. Have a great day, Tom.
Thank you. You too.